Hello and welcome back to Through the Big Book with Dr. Ben. My name is Ben and I'm an alcoholic. Hallelujah. We have done the first 4 steps. And so in this chapter, we'll be doing steps 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. All in one chapter. Are you excited? You should be, because this chapter rocks. AA really starts to change. This is where it really pivots, and we're making some big changes here. This is an exciting part of the program. So we're in chapter 6 called Into Action on page 72. Let's just dive right in here. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We've admitted certain defects. We've ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is, and we've put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now, these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we've admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we've done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There's doubt in that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We'll be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. I agree. So the best reason first. If we skip this vital step, the 5th step, we may not overcome drinking. Pretty good reason. It says, time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they've turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they'd lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they'd humbled themselves. But they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense that we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. So it doesn't matter how wild this stuff is on a 4th step that you're telling somebody in your 5th step. It doesn't matter how bad you think it is. We got to get this stuff off our chest, or we might drink again. It's so important, especially the things that are bothering you the most. Like, that's the stuff we got to talk about. All these little spiritual cancers and stuff grow in the dark, and they grow in isolation. And so whenever we shine light on them, as you've heard me talk about, and during the 3rd step and stuff, it's whenever we shine light on these things that we begin to get better, and that our health improves. So that's what we're looking for here. It says, more than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He's very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents a stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he's revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He's under constant fear and tension, and that makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We've spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we've given these doctors a fair break. We've seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder why many in the medical profession have such a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance of recovery. All right, this is really important here. It says we must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. And so here we're generally starting with our sponsor, and there are other people that we can do our fifth step with, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But we need to be honest with somebody. So rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. So that's like a priest, if you're a Catholic or something like that. So it says, though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. So my sponsor, the sponsor that I had, Hal Vorse, for a long time, was a physician and outsourced a lot of things in the program. And one of them was a fifth step. He didn't listen to fifth steps because he just didn't have a lot of time to do that, to sit down with somebody for 1, 2, 3 hours to listen to a fifth step. So he sent me to an ordained Episcopalian, I probably said that wrong, forgive me, an Episcopal priest, and I did mine with him. And I don't know if you've listened to the rest of my videos, but I was not used to church. That was a new thing for me. So it was really quite shocking to go in and tell a priest my fifth step. It was just shocking to be in a church in the first place. But I did it. That's how we did it. So it says, we often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. If we could not or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a close-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. I think that there are quite a few other options that would be much more cost-effective than talking to a psychologist or a doctor, but it is nice to know that that's an option. It says it may be one of our own family, but we can't disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. Now, I've had one person do their fifth step with their wife. I don't know any others that have done a fifth step with their family members. The exceeding majority of people generally do it with me or their sponsor, or what I'm saying. But I have had one person do it with their therapist. And like I said, I did mine with my priest, a priest friend of mine. And so there are options with who we do it with. It says we have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. So that's like, if you're doing it with your wife, and obviously you're going to have some resentment against your wife. That's what wives are for, right? Is building resentments. Ha ha, AA joke, I'm kidding. But really, you don't want to you can't be completely honest with her if you've been unfaithful or something like that, or vice versa. If this is your husband, they don't need to be hearing that stuff. And if you've got a lot of that on your fourth step to do, then it's just, you're going to hurt them by telling them that stuff. And so, you can't be like, oh, well, and then I'm, with your sister and then your friend, but hey, thanks for listening to that. I feel so much better now. I'm probably not going to drink. Well, you might have just ruined that person's life. Come on now. So, and I hate that I have to say that, but, that's something that we need instruction on. So it says, such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is that we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Now that one can be kind of difficult, but that is, again, the rule. We're always looking at our own inventory. We're always trying to make ourselves better, and we need to do our best to be gracious with others. Very easy to say. Sometimes it can be really hard to do, but nonetheless, spiritual progress is what we're looking for here. So, notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we're very anxious that we talk to the right person. It's very it's important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we're driving at, and that he will not try to change our plan. We must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. So today, we have access to all kinds of communication platforms, not just a landline or a cell phone. But now we have all these different online platforms that we can use as well that are put us in touch with people all over the world. So there's truly no excuse for not having somebody to do a fifth step with. It doesn't have to be your sponsor. I've had some people that do it with or one person, forgive me, that did it with their therapist. It makes it a little tougher, I think, as a sponsor to kind of know what to look for and stuff, and to whenever people are doing 10-step work or 11-step inventory for the nightly inventory or the nightly inventory. But nonetheless, it doesn't really matter as long as we're doing it with somebody. And there's just really no excuse to postpone. There's not like you're going to reach a certain point where you're totally ready to do this. No one really ever is. You just do it. You just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and go at it. Probably a pretty horrible analogy for what I'm talking about here, but nonetheless, that's what we have to work with. So then it says, when we decide who's to hear our story, we waste no time. We've written an inventory and we're prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we're about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we're engaged on a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They'll be honored by our confidence. Yeah, again, I've done most of my fifth steps with my sponsors throughout the years, and it's worked just fine for me. So, what are the results of doing this fifth step? Or the promises, if you will. You hear a lot of the 9-step promises or the 10-step promises. But these are really awesome too. We've gone over the 3rd-step promises or results, and these are the 5th-step promises. It says we pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we've taken this step withholding nothing, we're delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. Now that is just absolutely beautiful to me. I love these 5th-step promises. After I did my 5th step, I felt like I was really a part of AA. Like I belonged. Like I had some skin in the game now because I had told somebody else all my life story, So it says, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we've done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Now, to me, I recommend everybody. It was recommended to me, and I recommend to all my sponsees. This is a serious part. This is a serious, instruction here to me to be meditative and contemplative about our 5th step and about what we're doing so far and where we're at in this program. And, like no phones. It doesn't say this specifically, but we didn't have cell phones in 1939 when this book was written. If they had, they probably would have said, turn your phone off. I do that. I recommend people turn your phone off. Set a timer for an hour. No TV, no any of that stuff. I spent, my sponsor that I did mine with last lives a long way from me. I was driving from where he lived back to my place, and it was a 4-hour drive. So I spent an hour in quiet in the car, and so it was quite nice. But you can do it in any way you like. You can go out to the lake, you can go to the ocean, to the mountains, you can sit in your bed, whatever it is that you want to do. But as long as you're alone for an hour and you can be contemplative and prayerful, then you'll be spot on. And again, prayers of gratitude toward God are great. So that concludes this episode. That's going to conclude the 5th step. So I hope that encourages you to do one. helps you out with any questions you might have about how to do a fifth step. It's very straightforward. I read mine across, like mom, then this, and then go, horizontally across the things. You can go vertically, you can go however you want to do this. They don't specify in the big book. I think it's easy to go horizontally, like, she was mean to me and this affects my this, and then go to the next one, this, and then this affects my that. And then on the next page, where was I selfish? I was dishonest to her. I stole from her. I was verbally abusive. I didn't do my chores, whatever you want to say. And then go to the relationships or sex list and read that. And then go to this or prior to that, forgive me, is the fear list. So you just reading this stuff. You don't have to add on a bunch of stuff. And when you get to the end, I want, if they don't ask you, is there anything you left off? That's your time. You'll see that nobody's really invested in all this stuff that you're talking about. It's not that big of a deal. We're just there to receive it. We're not there to comment on it. I do, and for your sponsors out there, I do not encourage anybody to comment on all this stuff. That's not our job. Our job is to receive this information. It's not to judge somebody or say, oh, well, you should have done this, or that sounds like that, and give a bunch of commentary. That is not helpful. We're not... If you're not a psychologist getting paid for psychology work, for cognitive behavioral therapy, or a psychiatrist, or whatever it is, then you don't need to be doing that. That's really not our role. Our role as sponsors is to be there for people to just get this stuff off their chest. That's it. My old sponsor, Hal, used to joke and say the hardest part about listening to a fifth step is staying awake. I agree with that. You're just there. I smile and I say, what's next? What's next? Okay, cool. What's next? What's next? I don't say, okay, cool, but I say, what's next? And some of these things will take 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. And I like to take breaks. I can't sit down and do anything for 3 or 4 hours. So we'll take breaks. We'll have a coffee break. A lot of my guys will smoke or whatever, and they'll smoke a vape or a cigarette or something. And we'll take a break. But nonetheless, I like to get it done in one sitting and just be done with it. If somebody doesn't have time, schedule it with somebody else. Just don't sit on it, But again, it is not our job to comment on somebody's fifth step. We're just there to receive it. So please don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to be a therapist or a psychiatrist and all this stuff. Just receive it. Just be there for them and hear this stuff. It's the most effective thing we can do. They're just there to take the trash out. They don't need all the answers, and they don't need all your answers. They need God's answers. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my opinion that's come from my experience with a lot of sponsees. I've had somebody that gave me feedback one time, and it throws you out of the rhythm, and you're like, they'd want to talk about things, and it turns it into just an experience that is not as helpful. It's more draining to me than it needs to be. So... and whatever, if you think that you need to comment on every single thing somebody says, well, then go for it. It's just, it has not been helpful to me. Wasn't helpful when I went through it. And so I don't do that. If you are a psychiatrist, you're board certified psychiatrist and you're trained in all this stuff and somebody's paying you to be a psychiatrist, then that's not AA. You know what I'm saying? We're just there to be there for somebody and to be on the receiving end. So fifth step's intense, and so if you're doing one, congratulations. And if you've done one, congratulations. And if you're about to do one, I'm really excited for you. This is a huge deal, and this is like the end of the super tumultuous part of the program to me. From here on out, it kind of calms down a little bit and really gets better, and the light comes and all that stuff, if you will. So, all right, guys, there's 5 steps. Thanks for hanging in there with me. We'll be moving into the 6th step next, which is an awesome, happy, hallelujah, thank God we're finally on it step. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you in the next episode.